Players in Platinum and below miss their skill shots at least 5 times more than a challenger does against similar opponents. This isn't a random number for a catchy intro, because we literally counted skill shots landed and missed from our Smurf commentary games on SkillCapped compared to Platinum and below replays submitted by our subscribers across 20 different games because we wanted to give Hector something to do during the school holidays. He should have watched what he said about me in his stupid little trick video. But obviously there's a ton of variance between champion difficulty and player's skill, but the numbers are still quite shocking. But why? Why do challengers land skill shots at least 5 times more often? Well, it's simply because most players don't use any of the fundamental techniques required to land skill shots accurately. Here at SkillCapped, we've broken down the 5 most powerful tricks you can use to immediately land way more skill shots than normal, which needless to say is going to make you a far better player than before watching today's guide, so be sure to stick around. In this video, we've also decided to include some information that most players already know, especially if you follow our channel, and then as the guide goes on, we'll get to the advanced stuff that almost nobody knows about, just to make sure this guide is for both noobs and aspiring pro gamers. So starting with the basics, we have our first trick, and that's just put your mouse on them. I know it sounds too simple and obvious to be true, but it works really well with any skill shot that doesn't have travel time. So think Xerath Q, Syndra Q, or Cassio Q. A lot of players have a habit of trying to lead their skill shots, but you end up predicting and leading it way too much. This clip here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about from a low elo player trying to hit Zed with Syndra Q. She's trying to predict where he's going to move, but it's not even close. She should just be putting her mouse right on top of the Zed. If we look at another example from the laning phase, in this one, Zed is walking up and Syndra uses Q. It lands, but this was very easy to dodge if the Zed had fingers. When the Q appears, Zed is on the very edge of it and has plenty of time to move up a bit. Luckily for Syndra, he doesn't, so it hits. In this next one, Xerath goes to use his W on the Zed, and this is just another ability that definitely shouldn't have missed as Zed wasn't even in this circle at the start and just runs into it. Xerath W is actually the perfect example of an ability that you should never ever miss if you use this tip properly. I always say if you miss Xerath W, it's only your fault, they didn't dodge it. The hitbox is just too big, if you put your mouse on them, it will land. Especially in the early game if they don't have boots, or at least not level 2 boots. Then, after he lands the W, look where his mouse is when he uses Q. It's above him, but not on top of him, and that's what makes it miss. You should never miss Xerath Q after the W lands, because when they are slowed, if you put your mouse on them, they can't dodge it unless they have Swifty boots or mobility. It's just another personal Xerath rule that I have. Now, compare these skill shots to my own. In this game, I'm playing Xerath vs Kassadin. I go to use W on him, and look how my mouse is right on top, which makes it impossible for him to dodge that and my Q. Then, when he's under tower with low health, same exact thing with my W and Q again. It's actually this easy, especially with any skill shots that don't have travel time. Now in this next game, I'm playing Syndra vs Victor. My very first Q of this lane, look how I put my Q right on top of him so he's in the middle of it. No matter where he moves right now, he can't dodge it. Then 2 more times right after this, just putting my mouse right on top of him as best as I can, I'm not really predicting his movement at all. The reason why this works so well for these types of skill shots is, if they are standing in the middle of it when you cast it, they don't have enough movement speed to walk out anyways, so you should never be leading it too much. If anything, you want half of the hitbox to have the ability on them and half of it leading them, especially when they get level 2 boots. Now, when doing this, you want to be flicking your mouse to where they are. If you have ever played an FPS or shooter game like Call of Duty, you should understand where this tip comes from. You don't want to hold your mouse near them and hope they walk into it. You want to just flick your mouse on top, then use the ability. If you watch these Qs against Victor again, pay attention to where my mouse is and how I'm just flicking it over to Victor. The reason why this is important is if you're putting your mouse where they are heading to and expect them to just walk into it, they might just turn around or move a different way. I know this all sounds obvious, but I can guarantee most of you aren't doing this and are missing very easy skill shots. Alright, that brings us to our next trick, and it's still a pretty known one. Use your skill shot when they go for last hit. This tip is so important, and it's not just because it helps you land the skill shot. By using skill shots when they go for last hits, you actually manage your mana much better because you're not spamming, while also increasing the ratio of skill shots hit to skill shots missed, so your mana isn't going to waste. I'm sure you guys know this isn't as easy as it sounds sometimes, so let me give you a tip. A lot of this comes down to your spacing. If you aren't in range to use your ability, then try to harass them. You'll have to walk up first, then use it, and the window might be gone by then. A lot of you have this problem where you're trying to play way too safe in lane, and it makes it so you're not in range to harass or poke when you need to. If you look at this example here, watch how Victor was in range for me to harass him for a good 20 to 30 seconds straight, but I never went for it because he didn't walk up for any last hits. But then here, I see he's probably going to walk up for this low health melee minion. Take note of my positioning here. I'm standing in a spot where if he walks up to get it, I can immediately pressure or poke him for it. I'm not standing behind my minions like most of you guys do in these range vs range matchups. Then, when he walks up to get it, I hit him with Q with ease. Alright, now we're going to get into some of the tips you might not have heard before, starting with, when aiming your skill shots, you want to aim for the feet and not the body. Using this tip with the first two will make your laning phase a lot better. You want to aim for the feet because when looking at the game from an aerial view, if you aim for the body, the skill shot won't actually be going where you think it is. It's hard to explain, but we have a perfect example here from the same game earlier with Syndra vs Zed. She actually puts her mouse right on top of Zed here, but it misses by a good amount, and that's because her mouse is on Zed's body. This puts the skill shot way higher than it seems like it would. If her mouse was on his feet, it would have been in the perfect spot. Alright, these last two tricks are the more advanced ones that you definitely don't use and probably have never heard before. And that brings us to trick number 4, which is to let the enemy juke themselves out in situations where they are juking an important skill shot that they know is coming. A lot of the time, if they are juking all around, it'll be hard to hit them, but if you're in a position where they have to retreat, you can just hold the skill shot and wait until they're in a bad spot. In this example here, I'm playing Xerath vs Kassadin. Kassadin uses his R, then retreats, juking to dodge my abilities. Instead of using them when he's doing this, I know he'll be forced to retreat regardless because of my minion wave and auto attacks, so I just auto him. Then, when he jumps on top of me, I use my W and Q right on top of him. I could have used stun here as well. An even better example is in this one where I'm playing Vel'Koz vs Lux. Vel'Koz E is pretty difficult to land because of its cast time and delay, but I land a few abilities on the Lux to start off and she's getting pretty low. Instead of just using my E on her here where I can just auto and she's juking back and forth, I just wait and let her juke herself out. Instead of running to her tower, she runs away from it where she has no chance of surviving. Now at this point, she only has one place to go as she's about to die, and that's down towards her tower, and that's when I use my E. This guide isn't just for mid laners either. In this clip, I'm playing Lux vs Orianna, and my Nautilus comes to gank for me. Now, watch how when he's trying to gank, Ori starts juking a bit, running diagonal away from the Nautilus, but also not running straight towards her tower. Because of this, if Nautilus just runs at her diagonally, he will close the distance and cut her off until she's forced to run to her tower, and that's when he should throw the hook. She will juke herself into a spot where it will be super easy to land, but instead he throws it really early and Ori dodges it. Alright, our last tip will really help with the skill shots that actually have a travel time, like Lee Sin Q, Ezreal Q, Zed Q, etc. This one is a bit hard to explain and will be easier to understand with a visual example, but you can manipulate the enemy movement by moving one way, then throwing the skill shot the opposite way that you're moving. So if you're moving up, it'll make the enemy move down. In this clip, I'm playing LeBlanc. This tip works insanely well with any kind of mobility like LeBlanc's W or Zed's W. You want a W to one side of them and it will make them walk the other way, making LeBlanc's chain easier to land or Zed's Qs, etc. I'm looking for this brand, and when I find him, I W to him like this, so I know he will juke to the left since I'm jumping to the right of him. This makes my chain easy to land and gets me the kill. Even if I wasn't on LeBlanc and had a champion with no mobility, by just running to the right, he would move the same way. It's just a natural way people respond in the game. This won't work 100% of the time, but you will see how easy it is to manipulate other players' movement with this trick. Alright guys, so that brings us to the end of our 5 tricks to land your skill shots. If you get into the habit of using these, you will see a huge increase in the amount of skill shots you land. If you want to truly take your lane phase to the next level and learn how to convert leads into easy wins, then you need to check out our site skillcap.com. We have by far the largest catalog of guides on the internet with well over 800, and they are the exact quality you see here on YouTube. We've curated them into over 100 epic courses, and we release more than 10 new guides every week. We're so confident you'll improve, you can input your rank before signing up to see where we think you'll climb. If you don't hit that rank while actively using our service, you can claim a refund, so there's no risk. Sign up today to finally get the rank you've always wanted. Thanks for watching.